Okay.
Call the Board of Education meeting to order. The time is now 1:30 and a quorum of the board is present. State Board of Education meeting of September 12, 2017 is called to order. We're going to begin with public participation. Marilyn, are there individuals who wish to address the board?
There are. Our first speaker is Kim Jones, and Kim will be followed by Guillermo Lopez. You'll be given 5 minutes. The board does not engage in a back and forth conversation, but are happy to hear whatever you have. If you have handouts, if you'll pass them to the person closest to you, we'll be able to distribute them. Is Kim here?
Yes.
They're getting a picture.
Okay. Temporary stall.
Since it's an MDE guy, I guess it's okay.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. It's
We
really
look
a
forward
board
to
member
more
causing it.
episodes of Life According to
Certainly not going to object to that.
I don't know if I can come up with anything better than what I've already given you.
The blind trust is this Friday?
Yes.
I know. I can tell though. I can tell.
All right,
You don't know
welcome.
without looking it up.
Thank you for having us.
I deleted
Yep.
it by accident.
Short and sweet. I'm Kim Jones. I'm from Pawpaw, Michigan. I've been here a few times. I'm just here again to reiterate the fact that I don't know if the board understands. Our superintendent, not even our superintendent, our school board has agreed to keep our Pawpaw Redskin logo and imagery. Our community has agreed. The Supreme Court has ruled on things, and I'm only here to inform the board of the harassment and the bullying that is continued with the Not Your Mascot people. We had a grape and wine festival this weekend, and they came and protested, which was fine. It was their rights. I'm on the grape and wine board also, so we gave them a spot. We had about 100 students who participated with us, and we were really proud of them. They stood their ground respectfully, no altercations until the Not Your Mascot people did cross their lines. But the children were really good. They had really good facts. They did their homework. Our problem is they keep coming, they keep bullying us, and now they're going to bring it to the schools. We've already been harassed and bullied at Kalamazoo Central, different places. I don't know if there is a rule or a law or some kind of ruling that you guys have had for schools being safe havens. I know it's everybody's right to protest, and we agree with that. People are like, why can't we stop them from coming? Well, that's kind of like saying, why are we fighting for our rights too? They're fighting for their rights, so we can't stop them. We kind of want to reel somebody in before something gets worse, especially at our schools. They could protest up and down our streets all they want. It's our schools that we're having a problem with them coming, and that's what I'm asking. Is there something that I'm not finding? Is there something that we can do to kind of bring it in, because we had probably 100 officers that were taken off of our county. There was 2 county officers patrolling our whole county on Saturday during that time. And something would have happened somewhere else. It's kind of a, not waste of time or money, but our taxpayers are paying for it. So, that being said, if anybody has anything that they could offer us as a suggestion, we would really appreciate it.
All right, thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
Next, please.
Guillermo Lopez, followed by Irving Quintero Gervacchio. You'll have to straighten me out when you come to the table, because I'm sure I'm not saying that correctly. Okay, do I have all the public participation forms now? Thank you.
Please, thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, State Board members. Thank you for allowing us to speak here today. My name is Guillermo Lopez. I am the president of the Lead of Greater Lansing, which stands for Latino Leaders for the Enhancement of Advocacy and Development. I also happen to be a board member in the Lansing School Board of Education. And I'm here to, actually congratulate you and thank you for passage of the of the statement on DACA. I think it is very important that children that attend our schools feel safe, feel welcome, and feel respected and wanted. Your statement will go a long way to do that. Surely enough, I could say that most of our schools are welcoming. Most of our schools respect our students. But once in a while, they need to hear it, in the broader community, so that their parents feel safe that the kids are safe, and that they are indeed appreciated by all concerned. So when we educate children, we shouldn't look at their skin color, look at their ethnicity, look at anything except their God-given abilities and their desire for success. So again, because this has been a pleasant surprise, I thank you for your actions and wish you well. And
Thank you for being here, and thanks for your
allowing me
service
to
on the
speak.
board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Irving Quintero Gervasio, followed by Nino Rodriguez. And please, say your name in the correct manner, because I'm sorry, I know I mispronounced it.
It's Irvin Daniel Quintero Gervasio. So
Thank
it's a
you.
hard one.
Thank
but
you.
You did your best. Thanks. Well, I am. Hello. My name is Irvin Daniel Quintero Gervasio. I am a fourth-year college student at Western Michigan University. I am currently working on my BFA with a focus on photography. So kind of like not my space right now. And I am also a DACA student. I've been a DACA student since it came into place in 2012, and I am, I guess, lucky that I had the opportunity to renew my DACA recently. So I will be under this program until 2019. I guess I'm in the United States for two reasons. One is my mom, and two is opportunity. And I'm here to kind of talk to you guys about opportunity. When I came here to the U.S., I moved straight into Kalamazoo. As many of you know, there's the Kalamazoo Promise in Kalamazoo. So throughout middle school and elementary, the question to many of the students was, what university are you going to? But unfortunately for myself and some of my friends, the question was like, can we even go to college? It was kind of embarrassing because we didn't know who to ask. We didn't know who to go to. And here and there we found people that kind of helped us out. And thank God, in 2012, the DACA came into place. And I didn't realize it, how much it had helped me until I got a scholarship for Western. And my teacher, my art teacher asked me, hey, Irving, you should bring in the papers to apply for Western so we can get you into Western. And that was the moment that I realized, oh my God, I have a social security number. I can actually go to school. So it's a very nice thing. But besides that, I guess there was more to it. There was people who took the opportunity to work with me, to encourage me, and to build myself even before I could go to school, even knowing that I might not be able to go to school. And for that, I thank them. And today, you guys were given the opportunity to let us know that, to tell us that, we should keep going. And I thank you so much for this statement. It means so much, and many students will take advantage of this. Being able to say, I am backed up by Michigan, it is such a nice thing. So I thank you very much, and with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Our next speaker and final speaker is Nino Rodriguez.
Thank you very, very much. My name is Nino Rodriguez. Nino is boy. But I am here today as a boy too. I came to the United States in 1968 to be a professor in Aquinas College, exchange professor, just for 1 year. And look, 48 or 49, I'm going to celebrate 50 years next year, or be here in Michigan. And I appreciate what Senator Hart, Philip Hart, long time ago, did for me. The youth are important in the development of this country and this community. I congratulate you for approving. It's only 5-3. I ask in the other 3 before you leave, also support. this resolution. I had the honor to talk with your co-president, Honorable Dr. Richard Sale. He listened for me for 2-3 minutes, and I listened from him. We talked. We presented our human aspect. And this society needs a human society. That's what we teach in the schools. That's what I taught at Michigan State University to my students. That's what I did when I was a counselor for the Lansing School District. That's what I did when I was assistant principal in junior high school for discipline. Very tough, very short guy, but very strong guy for the right things to teach to our students and our parents and our society. That's what I did when I was a principal. One for all and all for one. That was every morning I told my students. That's what I did when I was director of the student services in Lansing School District, serving them regardless, because that was the future. That's what I did when I was director of curriculum and staff development, doing everything that you told me to do, because I had to align the curriculum or your standards. That's what I did when I was deputy superintendent of the Lansing School District. And that is what I am doing now, vice president of the school board. This is what we need now, not to destroy what we create, but build. And we build 800,000 young people, 8,000 in Michigan. That we educate them day in and day out. That we tell them every morning to pledge the allegiance to the United States of America. We did that to them. How we can throw them out? How we can tell them go to a country that they don't even know, that they don't have any identity? It was an original sin, but the churches forget that. We need to forget if they did something wrong, and they didn't. Some of them were 2 years old. We cannot divide. We have to unite. I'm asking you to send this resolution to every school, to every superintendent, every place. The people know that you are for the right things in this country. Thank you for what you did, and I hope there could be unanimous resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
This concludes public participation.
Thank you. Next item on the regular agenda is approval of K-12 physical education standards. The standards were presented to the board on June 13th. We provided information and answered questions in board briefs. So the action today is to approve those standards. We have Kyle Grant and Kim Kowalczyk here to answer any questions that you may have. Board, is there any questions?
Yeah.
Tom, please.
So this is just K-12, right?
K-12. Yep.
Okay. So I mean, okay. I mean, it's not prenatal, it's not post college or anything like that.
Correct.
Okay. I mean, there's a area in the first page that I think is not necessary because this is K-12.
Okay, Tom, thank you. Nikki, please.
I am concerned to continue to see that reference in a lot of this, language that we're talking about, and when we present these, I know that you guys work hard on these standards. My biggest concern when we continue to say the purpose of this work was to design an educational system that engages our children prenatal through post-secondary, and then attach them to K through 12 standards, is that we're confusing exactly what we're doing in the work that we're doing. So I guess just from the spirit of inquiry, in the standard of acting as a board member, can you explain to me what it means to develop K through 12 physical education standards within a prenatal through post-secondary system?
So I think the notion with that, having that statement in there, is to say that there's a lifespan, right? There's a span of which we need to be physically active as adults to be healthy, right? So these standards are taking the place of that K-12 space where we have the opportunity to teach young people how to be physically active, why it's important, and how to learn skills to be physically active throughout the lifespan.
But I don't disagree with that. I think that the standards, the K through 12 standards, make sense. To attach it to an introduction that talks about it coming from a design model in an education system that's prenatal through post-secondary is inconsistent. And I think what concerns me ultimately, and this is just a genuine concern that I have, the further we continue to adopt standards that are coming from that design model, I want to know a little bit more about what that design model intends to do long-term. So for example, if we have a P20 system that's drawing K-12 standards, what exactly is that P20 system intended to provide prenatally and early on and in a pre-K concept? Because what I would be voting on here today is something that states that I understand that educational system. And I don't understand the educational system. What I do know is that we provide a significant amount of prenatal services through DHS. We have early on programs. We have GRSP through MDE. We have a lot of things that we offer, and so I can't quite see myself getting there. And here's why, because what I have experienced professionally is that when we have multiple services that we aren't very clear about who's supposed to be providing them, so is it MDE, is it DHS, and typically it's been DHS, less services get to our people. Less dollars go to the classroom, less services get to the people in need. And in this case, even though it's K through 12 physical education standards, when I hear prenatal through post-secondary as a design model for an educational system that we're applying these to, I'm hearing services to moms and babies, even though it's not a set of standards that it's really inconsistent, and I'm cautious to bring confusion and chaos into what it would look like to take services away from moms and babies. I'm very cautious about that. So I have to be honest with you that I would like to see us remove that from the introduction, because it's not that I have a particular issue with the K through 12 standards that you're presenting. I just feel like we are wading in deep water that we haven't even explored yet.
What part of the document
Which,
are you using?
which page and which line?
So the very first page under introduction, the purpose of this work was to design an educational system that engages our children prenatal through post-secondary in a meaningful way by finding, and then it carries on. But what does a meaningful way look like within a P through 20 system? Because we haven't defined that. We've defined it K through 12. And then again, I continue to have caution in creating confusion and chaos by calling it a P20 education system when we have an entire set of services we offer our moms, babies prenatally in other areas of our government. There are other bodies of our government charged with those responsibilities. I want to see those dollars that are required to provide those services in an adequate fashion get to them by, as far off as it sounds, to sign on to K-12 physical education standards with that wording in there. How do I explain that to, anyone who's asking me to be accountable to that educational system in 8-10 years, even when I'm not a board member? So,
Just to clarify, I mean, that statement is around our vision, Brian's vision for 10 and 10, which has those pieces that you speak about lined up in that document. That's part of our work as a department. So this was really referencing how this fits into what our 10 and 10 goals are. So if that is confusing in a way that you think that it means that these standards are somehow providing that or taking something away from that, then I don't see a problem with taking it out. But again, it was our goal to intentionally link the work that was done in this document to be part of the broader vision and mission of our department to be a top 10 state in education in 10 years.
So you'd have to say I still wouldn't support it because I need to understand the educational system first before I can continue to support things where it's embedded in every single thing we're doing as a board. And I say that simply because I don't want to see these services be confused or any more chaos put into a system where services are provided elsewhere. I want to see a system that's clear as to who provides what and where and how and budgeting. And it's not there. So if we could eliminate that, I would be inclined to support the standards.
Any other questions or comments before we move to?
I just want to make sure, I think that there may be a misunderstanding here. I think what I'm hearing from Kyle is that that whole paragraph only refers back to top 10 and 10. And Nikki, you weren't on the board when we spent a year going through this development. So I lived through that. I haven't ever gone back and tried to read it. So, I have, but we did. We read the reports, but we haven't gone back and actually read the initial work. And it's posted on the web along with the strategic plan, the goals and strategies are. So is there, and we know that this document is discrete and only dealing with PE for K through 12, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Dr. Z, please.
Would it be appropriate to move to strike the parenthetical phrase?
When I get to it, it would be.
Okay.
If we're ready to get to it, then is there a motion to accept the standards, put it on the table?
Motion, so made.
Moved, is there support?
Second.
It's been moved and supported to put the issue on the table. Now it would be appropriate if you want to amend something.
I move to delete the parenthetical phrase prenatal through post-secondary.
Or,
It's been moved and supported to strike that language. Any discussion on the amendment?
I still don't understand what the problem is. I am in support of how the document is written, so I don't understand how that is going to impede anything.
Cassandra, please.
Well, I'll just say from my perspective, I don't have a problem with this being in there, but I don't feel strongly one way or the other. I don't think leaving it in directly impacts the standards, and I don't think taking it out impacts the standards either. So I don't care.
I'm with Nikki, I would support it if we took those out, and then
Yeah.
I'm good with the whole thing.
All right, so on the motion to strike those couple words, it's been moved, supported, and discussed.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
I want to hear from the presenters why that was put into the document. There must be a reason.
It was just to align to our top 10 and 10. I don't think it's a major issue for us.
Which has the 10 and 10, our 10 and 10 plan has a prenatal through post-secondary focus, so that's.
Right. In this instance,
why
I don't think it has a
relevant.
big issue
Yeah.
for us.
It's relevant because we're referencing the 10 and 10 plan, yes.
Mertz, please call the roll.
Fecto?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Pugh? Absent. Ramos Spontini?
No.
Snyder?
Yes.
Albrecht?
Yes.
Weiser?
Yes.
Xyley?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Now we go back to the full standards. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Please, Eileen.
I'm still worried about swimming.
We
We can laugh about this, but I don't. I mean, this is a state that's surrounded by water on all but one side, and
Eileen, we added it.
it's in there?
Yeah,
It's in there, yeah.
You put it in?
All the
Put it there?
capital, tons of
But
places.
how are you going to be able to achieve it with the fact that all schools don't have pools?
Right.
I didn't
It-
go through and check it.
Just for those that would be impacting those that do have.
I mean, we provide kind of the basis for, you were just about to articulate why it's important. So we kind of put a line, some verbiage about that and then added the standards in for aquatics. So we have many places that have access to pools and will do that and continue doing it, and others that we will need to work with partners and others to find local partnerships, whether through WISE or through other nonprofit groups that may have access to pools to provide that education.
So if they
So-
are able to operate, they have the guidelines, the standards right here.
Thank you. You've taken away my swimming rant, but I
Well,
really appreciate why you did it. Thank you.
We have to study our document.
Yes, we do.
All right, Tom, please.
And it is mentioned, in one area, the page numbers are no longer on there, but I think it's page 30.
We had a little
number-
transference problem. We'll fix
Yeah,
that.
we
Okay, number
realized it.
23, it says preferably taught at elementary or secondary levels, however, availability of facilities may dictate when swimming and water safety are offered. It didn't, I mean, I only caught that in one area, even though the aquatics is in many different areas, but I didn't know.
Yep.
I mean, I do wonder if people are going to point to this and say, okay, the state board is expecting us to do this, and yet, so we're required to put in a swimming pool.
Why not?
This doesn't require anybody to put in a pool.
We didn't
But if you
require-
have swimming,
Right.
here's some
Right.
standards.
Or, I mean, what are they, or if they have a lake nearby, are they supposed to go visit the lake, or?
The why?
I mean, school districts that have pools may choose not to provide swimming as part of their PE program. So it's really up to districts as to whether or not they're going to include this as part
Local
of their physical
control, right?
education program. And if they do, then, yeah, either they use the facilities they have, or they work with the Y, or, you know.
Okay, it's been moved. Dr. Z, please.
Just more of an observation, anything else. We're always tempted to justify standards in terms of something else. Like, we need these physical ed standards because they'll help our kids do better on tests, okay? Because they'll do better on their other subjects. Well, we don't need to do that. I mean, physical health is its own end. And maybe when we come back to this in 10, 15 years, we'll think in terms of the value in itself of health and physical wellness.
All right, call the question, please, Moots.
Bechtel?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Pugh? Absent?
Yes.
That was Lupe Ramos Montini. Snyder?
Yes.
Albridge?
Yes.
Weiser?
Yes.
Xyley?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you very much. Now we move to a report of Teacher of the Year. Luke Wilcox, the 2017-18 Michigan Teacher of the Year, will provide a report. We know that Luke is a math teacher at East Kentwood High School and Kentwood Public Schools, which is in the greater Grand Rapids area. Luke, thank you.
Thank you guys for allowing me some time to talk today. And the nice thing for you is that you don't have to vote on anything at the end of this, and we don't even really have to have discussion about it. My intention here is just to share with you one of the programs that I helped start at East Kentwood High School, but then also to challenge you to think about how we might be able to scale this program that we've seen success with in Kentwood. We're currently working on scaling it within the West Michigan region, but possibly even the idea of thinking about how we could scale it at a state level. So you've got our logo up here. I'm going to talk to you about this group that we created in Kentwood called the Rising Teacher Leaders. Just to give you a little background about where the idea came from, in 2012, East Kentwood High School was identified as a priority school by the state of Michigan. And we got to work. We got to work in improving what we were doing at East Kentwood High School. And along the way, a colleague of mine, an English teacher, we started to think about what was the way that, what could we do that would have the most impact on our school from the level of being a teacher. And we realized that there's huge potential in working with new teachers, brand new teachers. Because we know there's a huge amount of growth that happens not only in the first year, but in the first couple of years of teaching. And anybody that's been in the profession will tell you that those are the toughest years, but they're also the years where you grow a significant amount as a teacher. And so we identified this group of new teachers and said, all right, what can we do to help support these new teachers? And we wanted to sort of take the old mentorship model and rethink it, rethink what we were doing with our new teachers. And at the time we have mentors. Every new teacher gets a mentor. It's required by the state of Michigan. That mentor has to meet with the new teacher a certain number of times throughout the year. But we felt like that wasn't enough support for these new teachers that were going through this difficult first year of teaching. So in 2015, we started our first group of Rising Teacher Leaders. It had 10 teachers, all new to Kentwood. And the idea was that instead of having a single mentor, we were going to create a network of teachers, and not just new teachers, but also experienced teachers, where that network would be the support for those new teachers that were growing so much in their first couple of years. And so we would meet a couple of times a month with very intentional planning on what we were going to discuss at those particular meetings. But then we also had a lot of these one-on-one discussions between experienced teachers and new teachers. And in that first year, we found that it was like hugely successful. Teachers were talking about how much value it was adding, how they were growing within their classroom. We were building sort of like this collaborative culture within the group. We were also sort of establishing what the vision of our school was. Because I have this like 10-year vision about where I would like our school to be, and like if we can grab these new teachers in their first year and get them to buy into the vision of East Kentwood High School, then I think that we can have some real big long-term impact. And so in 2016, we had our second cohort of Rising Teacher Leaders that had 11 teachers in it. And then this year, 2017, we have 12 new teachers in the new cohort. And so now total, within those 3 years, we have 33 teachers that are part of the Rising Teacher Leaders, which is a significant portion of our staff at this point. And I feel like if we can continue to use this model over the next 10 years, and every time we hire new teachers, they go through this Rising Teacher Leaders program with this kind of support, that 10 years from now, we can have a significant impact on our staff and ultimately the success of our students. So the next question then is, how can we scale this? If this is something that's working well at East Kentwood High School, how can we bring this to other schools? And so I'm currently working right now with within the West Michigan area to grow this program into other schools. Get this Rising Teacher Leaders program started in a few other schools. And longer term, I'd like to take what we've learned from this program, because we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot about what new teachers need. Like, what is it that new teachers are thinking about and they need in order to be successful in that first year and beyond. And so I feel like with the ideas that we've identified as those must-know things for new teachers, that we could create some sort of a model, whether it be online, in-person training, videos, whatever it is. But my colleague and I are committed to supporting new teachers. And we'd like to be able to support as many new teachers as we can. And so just to tie this into the top 10 and 10, these are the strategic goals. And if you look at number 2, number 2 is really what we're working on with this Rising Teacher Leaders. We're trying to build leaders within the schools and high quality instruction, because we know high quality teachers is like the number one most important factor in student learning. And we're developing those teachers at a young age, right when they start. And then the third strategic goal there is has a lot to do with keeping these great teachers around, because I've seen great teachers leave the classroom, and you know the stats on the first 5 years of teaching. We lose a lot of teachers in the first 5 years, and I feel like if they have a high quality support system in place within their schools, that they're going to be much more likely to stay in those schools. They'll be bought into the vision of the school. They'll feel supported by their colleagues. And so I think that with some programming like this, that our retention rates as far as keeping these great teachers in the classroom will improve. And ultimately, we know that there's a potential that we face a teacher shortage in the future here. And a good solution for that is making sure that we keep these great teachers around. So I'd just like to challenge you guys to think about how we might implement some sort of program like this new teacher support, because I think grabbing new teachers right when they're new to the profession can have significant impact on the future of our schools here in the state of Michigan.
So have you had an opportunity to meet with Abby or Leah yet on this?
So I tried to get a meeting with them today after this meeting, but we're going to meet we're going to meet soon.
Okay,
so
good.
I'm connected to the right people, I think. Yeah.
Good. All right. Anything else?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Look forward to working with you on it. Hey. Okay, next action item is approval of changes to organizational representatives on the Special Education Advisory Committee, SEAC. The Office of Special Education has received requests for changes from organizations asking that their SEAC designees be changed. Staff will give us the details, and we have Terry Chapman, Director of Office of Special Ed, with us here today. Terry, thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. As you guys know, SEAC is a required advisory committee for the State Board of Education as outlined in the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. We have 33 voting members. They have organizational affiliations. Some of them are also members at large, so that they represent parents. 51% of that total committee has to be a parent or an individual with a disability. And so we have to monitor really closely when there are vacancies, making sure that we are keeping that 51% of the members representing parents of children. We've also I think in the previous years, we've been really challenged to get just enough people to meet our quota and to maintain that 51%. But the last several years, we've had lots of people interested in participating. And so we've been a little bit more purposeful in making sure that the demographics of our children are also represented in the demographics of our committee, because we want to have the perspectives of all of our children as a part of the discussion. So that was an additional consideration this year as we look to fill some vacancies. Each organization and individual fills a 3-year term. If during the 3-year term, for whatever reason, a member is not able to fulfill the complete 3 years, or in one case, we had an organization that ceased to exist any longer, so we had to go through a process of actually finding another organization that could hold that seat and then get folks who would be willing to serve as both a delegate and an alternate. So we want to make sure there's always a voting member and that there's somebody as an alternate that can vote on their behalf in the event that the delegate's not there. So the individuals that you have in front of you today are representing 2 different organizations that needed to have vacancies filled to complete their 3-year terms. Some are delegates, some are alternates. In one case, it was a Michigan Education Association, I think, has needed to replace their delegate. And then we have one other person who is an at-large member, and that is a parent. And so we had kept a kind of running list of parents who have indicated interest, and we contact them to say there is an opening. They submit application, which you have included in your packet, so you can see kind of what they bring to the level of interest, what they might be able to contribute to the committee. So the names that you have are really just those that we feel would be really good contributors to the committee's work overall. And we have a planning retreat with them next weekend, and they'll have their first business meeting in October.
All right, is there a motion to accept the changes as recommended by the superintendent's memo of August 29th?
So moved.
Lupe moves.
Support.
And it's supported. Discussion. Tom, please.
Just curious, I heard what you just said. So Ann Barna is to fill the member at large. I understand the other 2 were nominated by organizations. This third person was nominated by who?
Yeah, I think that's a misunderstanding. Members at large are not necessarily nominated. They kind of self-identify to the office and the department their interest in participating.
Okay.
Sometimes we have board members who nominate parents for those positions. I think in this particular case, hers was a name that was given to us at some earlier point. So she's not really nominated as much as
But I mean,
she.
somebody decided it was not going to be person A, it's going to be this person.
Yeah, we have a committee that looks at all
And
of the.
somebody in MDE, a department. The department decided.
Well, actually, it's the executive board on the Special Education Advisory
Oh, okay.
Committee. They go through a process of looking at the folks that have expressed interest and make recommendations.
Oh, they're the one. Okay, that committee decided this is the person?
They move those names
Oh,
forward
okay.
to you guys. Yep.
Well, the MEA moved forward Ms.
Their
Israel,
person.
right?
They-
Correct.
Each
Not the-
organization,
Okay.
they
Right.
submit a name.
But as far as at large?
Yeah, they
okay.
nominate those.
I understand. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, call the roll. I think this one we can do by roll call. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Terry. Next item on the agenda is approval of the State Board of Education meeting schedule for 2018. The State Board Executive has proposed a meeting schedule for 2018. The meetings are scheduled for the second Tuesday of the month, with the exception of March. The March meeting is scheduled for the second Wednesday to avoid a scheduling conflict with the Governor's Education and Talent Summit. The board retreat is proposed for the fourth Tuesday in May. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Excuse me,
Yep.
I just want everybody to note that on C, that's my birthday.
Ah, important, we'll have a cake then.
So beware.
Beware. All right, consent agenda. Are there any items on, that the board wishes to have removed from the consent agenda prior to the vote?
Yeah, I would like R and AA.
R and AA removed.
I'm still.
Anything else?
Just don't wear my There it is.
Seeing none, all those in favor of the revised consent agenda minus R and AA, is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
I don't understand what you, but, so we deleted two of them?
We're going to take two individually instead of as part of the consent.
Oh, okay.
So let's do that again. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now we go back to item R, which is, I don't have mine. in front of me.
Endorsement of Board of Education governance standards.
All right, that's what Don Wetruba presented to us today. Any comments on that? Is there a motion to approve that one?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the MASB governance standards. Discussion, please.
Yeah,
Tom?
I just wanted it removed because I'm just not sure that we should be, I don't know, we didn't put it out for public comment ourselves. We don't know what the comments were there negatives, is this all encompassing? I don't know that I want to go down this road of, it's a private entity that we are endorsing, and I know that these are voluntary, but I just am wondering if, like he mentioned, this becomes, this is the state board saying that we should do this, and I don't know, I just wanted to be able to pass on it, and I didn't want to express my support. I don't have anything opposing, I just don't think that we should be doing it necessarily, but it's fine.
Thank you, Tom. Dr. Z, please.
What is the exact wording of the motion?
So
That's a good point.
To endorse the,
I think we can come up with any wording now that you removed it. So I think what we would say is that these are,
Would the movers accept the language of commend? We commend these standards?
actually, there is no, oh, yes, there is a motion. Good point. So how do you want to title it is what we're asking, and you're saying you want to title it what?
Commend?
We
To
co-
commend these standards,
I'm not sure.
as opposed to adopt?
We're not adopting.
Endorse.
Endorse.
Or endorse, okay.
That's what
Endorse.
this says, endorse.
We endorse the standards that are optional, voluntary, right? Okay? So that's, just want to make sure we understand the motion. We're endorsing.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we can support.
Yeah.
Endorse and support.
So are we trying to not endorse? Do we think that we have people on the board who won't give us a 5-3 vote? Should we take the vote first and see whether it fails to endorse them?
I didn't want to make a
All right.
bill of it, but
Remind me who made the motion.
Yeah, so
Lupe and
there's a friendly amendment, which we don't have to accept.
Right.
Right?
So we could
no.
say no to
then
the,
he could make the motion
Right.
to end.
right? So,
So we're just trying to find wording. So we applaud.
I would recommend that we use
Thumbs up.
the language we have now, and if that fails, then we can wordsmith.
That's what I was
Okay.
suggesting.
Yeah.
Dr. Z, please.
We, in endorsing this, we're not saying this is the exclusive rule.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, with that understanding, I'm happy to vote for it.
Well, even they don't say this is the exclusive.
Right.
It's not the Bible, it's just a
Suggestions.
recommendation, just guidelines.
Right.
But I think it is very healthy, and I know the school board members that I've talked to like the programs that they provide for them, and this is just gonna solidify it even more structured, because they need that and they want that.
All right, so,
You know-
oh, Tom, go ahead.
Now that Richard just brought that up, when I press on the hot link to endorsement, there is no resolution, so.
Right.
What is, the motion is to endorse, is the state board endorses the Board
Yes.
of Education governance standards as presented by the.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Thank you, Tom, for that clarification. All right, so call the roll, please.
Vecto, McMillan,
Pass.
Pugh is not here. Lupe Ramos Mondini.
Yes.
Snyder,
Abstain.
Albrich,
Yes.
Weiser,
Yes.
Xyley.
Yes.
5.
Motion carries. Thank you. Now we go to AA, which is approval of criteria for mandated activities under Part C of the IDEA grants of $1.6 million. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion? Tom, your
Yeah,
concern?
I am certainly somebody who has supported special education in my, my legislative and other efforts certainly bear that out. So this has nothing to do with concern about that. When I read, like the memo, it's talking about, and then also on page 3, but the memo is talking about collection and reporting of performance data from birth to 3 years of age. And collaboration with major efforts conducted by state agencies and tribal organizations to locate and identify children for these programs, presumably birth to 3. And then on page 3 of the actual, it talks about locating all eligible infants and toddlers. And I guess I'm wondering how does the money, or how does the recipients go about locating them? Because it seems like you'd have to inquire of everyone in order to locate some. Or is it by voluntary? I don't get the sense that it's voluntary. Parents send something that says, here, identify my child as one, because he or she is. So how do they do this? I guess I just want to know, how is this done?
Comments, please?
So this is, in that Part C is totally voluntary. This is basically making all the different entities that deal with children 0 to 3 knowledgeable that they can refer a child that is demonstrating a delay or disabilities into the 0 to 3 system.
Is this with the parents' approval?
Oh, yeah, especially with the child 0 to 3. And typically, the early on program incorporates the family and/or parent as an integral part of the entire service plan. Because the child is so young that you really need to have the family involved in working with the care providers and providing the services. So, yeah, it's not, it's not mandated, it's voluntary, but given the age of the children, there is an integral part of the family's engagement in the work.
And then how is the collection and reporting of data?
So the federal government requires, and just like with what I call traditional special ed, this is a value statement. It's even worse for the 0 to 3 population. The federal government monitors and looks at all the states based on information that has to be reported about children in the special ed system, and that includes children 0 to 21. And so we're basically reporting the required elements that's request from all states and all special ed kids participating in the system. And so they look at that really to evaluate how well we are doing in achieving our performance measures.
So you're telling me that no agency is being encouraged to submit a name that the parents don't approve of?
Can't get services unless the parent approves.
Yeah, it has to be.
Well, not even that. I don't want somebody not coming up knocking on the door saying, this entity just told us about your child. Can we come in? That doesn't happen?
Parents have to ultimately approve of any involvement in the special ed system. And in particular, in the 0 to 3 portion of special ed, because it is such a strong involvement of the parents in quote, the treatment part of special education. So, it's not, you can't really treat a child, especially a young child who's age 0 to 3, without having active involvement of the parents in the treatment. And they have to ultimately sign off on whatever is decided as a treatment plan.
Michelle, please, and then Dr. Z, and then Nikki.
I was just going to mention I think I understand your concerns. My experience was a little bit different. I've seen parents who never expected to have a child with a disability, not know anything, not be prepared to deal with a child with a disability, not understand what their rights or resources, or they may be, isolated because of it. They see this as a real, at least the ones I know of, see these services as a real godsend. And they're glad that people are making them aware of them because they desperately need interventions. And I think, I've seen people, also, there needs to be better information. People need to know more about them. I've seen, and I've had experiences where, a child goes to daycare, they say, well, your child's behavior or whatever we can't deal with. It'd be great if they would have given a referral to say, oh, these are resources or places you can go for help and you can get services to help with this. I mean, there are people doctors, my pediatrician.
They can't do that without this money?
No, they just don't know. They don't even, I think what this money does is makes more people aware of the services and tries to get the children those referrals so that so more people understand what those services are and get that information to the parent. So if you talk to doctors, if you have children with, these disabilities, or the daycare centers, you have children that present these sorts of things at a very young age, let the parents know about these services. Because a lot of times parents fall through the cracks. They don't get them, and they need them. So that's, my experience has been the flip side. Not that there's too much gathering of information or too much intrusion, it's like there's not enough. So.
Dr. Z and then Nikki, please.
I wanted to ask, where do pediatricians fit in with this program?
Well, they would be an integral part of this program in that for a lot of pediatricians, they will in fact be referring their whole patient too early on for a more comprehensive opportunity for their child to have different types of professionals involved in his or her development.
Who else would make referrals to the program?
Well, parents themselves can,
Okay.
as well as child care centers would in fact refer nurses, doctors, whoever is in contact with a young child who notices a developmental delay. So that's what it is, if they notice that something isn't quite right, and so that's typically the referral to the early on. That something is not tracking where people think the child should be. And so a comprehensive assessment is done, and in the areas that need improvement are targeted, hopefully to get the child on track by sometimes later, but the goal is to try as much as possible to get the child at the appropriate level sooner rather than later.
Nikki, please.
I would echo that is a valuable grant. I do have to kind of get personal with that. Our pediatrician is who referred Harold to services he needed for occupational therapy and different things. And yeah, there are kids out there that just, I wouldn't have known where to go, I don't think, if they didn't offer that up. And then early on came into the home, and anyhow, there's many other kids throughout the state of Michigan that benefit from that. But on that page of just looking at grants and kind of figuring out where we're headed with the budget and referring back to what we talked about earlier with reading intervention, I just really don't want to hang on to that and then wait till later to figure out how we're going to solve that problem. So, I think that looking at what we're being presented for grants and having asked for where exactly are we at, what are we spending on reading intervention, what grants are available to schools, districts that need help to, intervene with reading. And literacy is an important thing, and making sure we're employing the correct methods that are evidence-based. So I know I've said that now twice today, but I'm looking at different grants in here, like W or Y. They're pretty large grants. I just feel like I'd like to know where we can head there. Can we head there now? I want to know how much we can put into reading intervention based on how much we're putting into other things like STEM and robotics. Not that those things shouldn't be supported, but I think that in the coming months, as a board, we should be addressing the reading literacy issue by looking at the grants that are placed before us for approval and considering how we can reallocate so that we can address this issue.
Yeah, but we can't reallocate because these are legislative passed.
But
Right.
suggest,
Yes, that we can do.
yes.
That we absolutely can do. All right, please call the roll on AA.
Vecto,
Yes.
McMillan,
I think I'm going to pass for now.
Ramos Montini,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Albridge,
Yes.
Weiser,
Yes.
Xyley.
Yes.
6.
Motion carries. Comments by state board members. Are there any comments? Eileen, please.
So, when you abstain, not you, but when we abstain from voting, it should be because you've had the chance to become informed. And I recognize, I mean, Top 10 and 10, for example, that was a huge process for all of us who went through it. But I'm wondering if there's a way to get you the information for a discussion, or whether we should be talking about having a, I remember years ago when Nancy Danoff and I came on the board, one of the things that we talked about for a long time was how you could bend federal grant dollars to the things that were going on in the department. This superintendent and this department have done a phenomenal job of looking at what's possible and reaching for that. But I also hear that the comfort level with what's going on is not there yet. You know, you don't have enough information. And I'm wondering if there's some way to address that. But I also recognize that these are complex issues, and to me, an abstention is because you weren't able to access the knowledge. It certainly was true on the statements, and I apologize for that. I just want to say that one of the things that Marty and I proposed a while ago was to hold legislative committee a week and a half before the board meetings, which would give people time to, within the committee, circulate statements and develop them, and then get them to the board like Thursday before the board meeting, instead of what happened today. And if there are other suggestions for making it so that we can all access information and be more comfortable with what's happening, I would welcome them for anything that has to do with legislative committee. I think that there might be some bridges that we can give you as this information comes down, not just Nikki and Tom, but for anybody else who hasn't been through a full cycle. You know, it's hard. This is complex and difficult information, and we're elected statewide to do a good job. So whenever there's an information gap, I'm hoping we can address it before, so we don't come to that brink.
Thank you. Lupe, please.
It's true what Eileen, and I feel for the new people because I was there. But I listened, and even if we give the board the materials, like we were suggesting meeting earlier so they can have the material earlier, I don't know if we get to see every material that comes our way, because the department does a very good job sending the materials to us, 2, 3, 4 weeks before the meeting, and we still have a lot of questions when we get to the table.
Sure.
Did we look at the materials? Did we look at the materials and ask the questions that we ask at the table? Could some of these questions be answered before the meeting? I think if we propose these questions to the department, many of these questions will be answered even before we sit here at the table. But it's a matter of us. I personally don't have the time to read every single document that's sent to me, because this is not the only board that I serve in. I do the best job that I can scanning the materials, and those items that are going to be motions that I have to vote on, I study them a little bit more. But, so I don't know if meeting before and us getting the materials sooner is going to make a difference, because the department certainly gives us the materials lots sooner, and we still have a million questions, and we have good ideas of things we want to edit to or delete from here at the table. So it's, and a lot of those things, I know the department will be flexible, they would listen to us, and we could do even prior to this meeting, and we get a lot of those things taken care of. So, you know, there's yes and there's no.
Anybody else? Dr. Z, please.
Well, there can be many reasons for abstaining on a vote, and I generally abstain for one of two reasons, or three reasons. Number one, I don't understand, and I don't feel that I've got enough information despite the best efforts of the department. A second reason might be, and a good example is the motion on DACA. I supported the opening paragraph and the last two paragraphs, but not the justification that was in the between. So sometimes, and this has happened a number of times over the years here, I've abstained on, not because I oppose the legislation, or the movement or the action, but the justification that has been a part of the resolution. And a third reason might be that, and again, there's a few I've abstained because I felt we were asking the wrong questions. And if you're not asking the right question, you really can't, aspirin, is a cure for the common cold. Well, it's not a cure for the common cold. It might help in the situation. So you're not against taking aspirin, but on the other hand, it's not the right question to be asked. So I think there are any number of reasons for which one might abstain. Now, the other thing I want to mention is a totally different subject. I saw a story on, I think you're the superintendent's off the record appearance, and the headline of the story was that charter schools were a big mistake, or something, or school choice was a big mistake, which was an utter distortion of, even if you read beyond the headline and read down below, it was a distortion of what was contained right in the article itself. You could have just as well made a headline, superintendent says schools don't, or money doesn't matter to education, because you also mentioned that was not the primary determinant of educational quality. I did, not because of that, but it came to me in another link. I did watch your whole interview there, and as I shared with you on email, I really appreciate the measured and balanced approach that you take and that you represent this department. You have the thankless task of getting a bunch of people to work together. And, I really, I'm in awe of your skills in that respect, and I think that, well, I just want to say I deeply appreciate that and urge all my hearers, all my listeners, no one from the media here to offend, but I'll say it anyway. You have to look, you can't just go by the headlines, you have to look at the story and the substance underneath to find out really what the superintendent, what individual board members, what the MDE is really saying.
Thank you with that. Nikki, please. Thank you, Dr. Z.
I'm going to continue to push that as board members we should work better together and get and communicate better. I have to disagree and say it's an unfair statement to say that won't help. I think it will help. I think even in these standards that some of us approved here today, it talks about the importance of the spirit of inquiry in our governance and in our work. And so having 50 questions even after reading through it is due process. That's what we're elected to do. And I think that we should support each other in pursuing that and not make each other feel any way other than doing what we were elected to do. I know this is not the only board you sit on. I have 3 kids and 3 jobs, and I'm going to continue to represent hardworking people in this capacity. So I'm going to keep pushing for due process in the way that we communicate together, in the way that we govern from the State Board of Education perspective, and I don't feel bad for what it looks like to push for that.
Thank you, Nikki. Michelle, please.
So on something completely different, Saturday, I had the privilege of working with one of my children, their childhood friend, and their foster kids, who I later adopted, but they had a friend who they always tried to look out for. Anyway, she is now 19 years old, and she desperately wants to go to college. She's been working. She worked 130 hours in one pay period. She walks, she doesn't have a car, so she walks to her job, which is a 40-minute walk, and home at night. She gets to be there by 6:30. She comes home sometimes 10 o'clock at night. And she supports her sisters and her mother and her grandmother. She's a remarkable young woman. And we helped her, I went and helped her get her permit, and we're helping her get her license and order. And she was wanting to go to college in Henry Ford Community College, which is not that far from her. But when we looked up on the bus routes, it was during the busy period, peak period, when most buses are out, it would take her 81 minutes one way to get there. So I say all this to say, and my other children, I was talking about this, they're all saying, why, if we care about college and career ready, don't we have driver's ed in school? And I know that that's something that happened, and it was, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of young people all over the state, it's not just in Detroit, that don't have transportation to go and don't have a license and don't have the resources. And I can tell you, there are plenty of young people out here, and not so young people, driving without licenses, which is making it dangerous for everybody else. And then they get caught, and then they get put in jail, and then they get fines, and then they don't pay the fines, and then they go back to jail, and then they have, but I think it would be something to consider, and I would like to try to investigate if there's any possibility to push to have driver's ed as a credit class or as an elective, or what it would take to have it, especially in places where they can't afford driver's ed. So just, that would mean a lot to this young woman and a lot of other young people like her, so.
Okay, take that note, thank you. Tom, please.
Just, again, congratulations on getting the SRO, State Reform Office, back. I don't want the future governor to feel like they need to take it back from MD. So I'm very interested. I think it needs to be of premier interest or prime interest of the board to know how this office is doing, how the schools that are falling under the SRO are doing. And I mean, I'd like us to consider maybe putting it as a permanent item on the agenda, and really get updates on what's happening, making sure that it's locally driven as much as we can. It's not a top-down, but it's still a solution. And exactly what are the solutions? Is it getting good on one test? Is it can we make sure that it's tailored to each area? And so, and the constraints that the statute might bring to bear as well. So I just am, again, I'm very happy. I think it was very chaotic what happened earlier earlier this year. But I am, I don't want it to happen again. And I just want to make sure that we keep it front and center.
So the SRO is folding into the partnership model, so there is no SRO anymore.
Okay.
Okay. We're going to be hiring a director of the partnership model, which will oversee early warning districts, partnership districts, and the partnership agreements in district is locally driven. I mean, it is them that sets the goals. Yes, we have to accept them, but as long as they're realistic goals, we're going to accept them. How they achieve the goals is up to them. And then we have time posts to make sure that they're achieving the goals. And we bring partners to the table, whether it's be the Department of Ed or DHHS or colleges and universities or private businesses or nonprofits, between us and the local district to come to the table. So we're implementing the partnership model as the replacement for the SRO, and the SRO team is folding into that model. Of course, as you know, the legislature could decide to go in a different direction, but that's the model we're implementing, and we'd be happy to put reports on a regular basis as to what the partnership districts and models where we're moving. That would be very positive. Luke and then Lupe?
Yeah, so East Kentwood High School, my high school, went through this process from 2012 to current. And so if at any point I can provide some sort of insight as far as our experience through our school, I'd love to be able to do that.
You did the partnership model?
So
No,
we had a school, an SRO.
He was under the SRO.
We had several SROs, if I remember correctly, and I'd have to speak with administration so that I could get all the whole story straight, but there were certain parts of that whole model that were really productive for East Kentwood High School, and there were other parts of that model that weren't necessarily so productive. And so I don't know what the right venue is, but if there's a point where I can provide some insight on that, I'd be very willing.
Okay, thank you. Lupe?
Well, I want to end with this note that I would like to thank Marty for helping me draft the statement. I want to thank my fellow board member Eileen for also assisting, and all of you for the input that you put into the DACA, the Dreamers statement of support. And also, I want to thank you, Superintendent Whiston, for running such a constructive meeting today. I really appreciate your demeanor, how you treat us all with respect and flexibility. And to all the members of the department, thank you so much for your reports. Everybody works really hard to get the reports here to the table, and your work shows. And so I know as a board, we are very appreciative of all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Lupe. So future meeting dates, Tuesday, October 10th, our regular meeting will be at Kent Intermediate School District. So Tuesday, October 10th at 9:30, we will not have a board meeting here. We'll be at Kent Intermediate School District, and we'll make sure that's posted. Tuesday, November 14th, regular meeting at 9:30 here, and then Tuesday, December 12th, I don't want to talk about December already, regular meeting here. If there are any items that any of you would like to have on the board agenda other than the ones that have been raised today, please let us know and we'll include that. Dr. Z?
Is there a GPS address I can put in for the next month's meeting?
Yep, we'll get that for you right now.
Okay, thank you.